Hello and welcome back to another episode of Delusional Chaos. And in today's episode of Delusional Chaos, we are going to be talking about nostalgia. And I have decided that what I want to do with Delusional Chaos from now on is have this new look, and I want to do them once a month. So if there's any specific topics that you want me to cover, please let me know in the comments, because I am more than willing to take on people's ideas. But yeah, today's one is about nostalgia because I've been feeling super nostalgic at the moment, and I thought, why not dive into that? Hopefully a lot of you can relate to my childhood topics, or things that are nostalgic to me. But if you weren't from my era, or you can't remember these things, then I hope that I can teach you about the early 2000s nostalgia. But yeah, I'm just gonna get into the definition, and then we're gonna dive into one of the topics for today. But if you enjoyed today's episode, please support the channel by giving it a like, comment and subscribe. But yeah, let me just get into it. Nostalgia is a feeling of longing, affection, or sentimental yearning for the past, often for a time, place, or experience that is remembered as happier or more meaningful than the present. In psychology, nostalgia is considered a complex mental state. It can involve warmth, comfort, and happiness, but also a touch of sadness because the moment being remembered is gone. And I think we talk a lot about nostalgia, but a lot of people didn't know the definition, or if you didn't, I hope that helps. But I just think it's important to explain what it means before we dive into it. Okay, so examples of when someone is feeling nostalgic. So hearing a song from their childhood, looking at old photos, visiting a place that they haven't been in years. So essentially, nostalgia is a mix of fond memories and emotional longing. When I think of my childhood, it's a mixture between bad and fond memories. And in today's episode, I want to focus on the positivity, so that is what I'll discuss. So the main topics which I want to dive into today are music, TV shows, food, films, being in nature, books and gaming consoles. And yeah, that is my list for today. But there are so many other things that I can dive into. So let me know in the comments if there's a topic that you want me to dive into more, or something that I didn't speak about and you want me to do in a future episode. But let me just get into the first one, which is music. So as I was born into the early 2000s, I feel like I was born in a time where, to me personally, the music is unreplicable. Had to get that one out. And I think that's just probably based on bias. I mean, there are obviously a lot of bangers that were released in the early 2000s, but music, there's great songs from 80s, 90s, 70s, 60s, the list obviously goes on. But, I am a little bit biased to what I grew up listening to. I grew up extremely into pop music. I was a pop girly. I loved all the pop girlies, and I did listen to a mix of R&B and rap, but probably not until I was a little bit older. So I'm just gonna read from my list of main artists that I remember. So gotta start off with a man that everyone my age was in love with, and that is Justin Bieber. And then Beyonce, JLS. I was a massive JLS girl. One Direction. Ed Sheeran, which I was a massive Ed Sheeran fan. Eminem, which still am a massive fan of. Little Mix, which they're iconic. The Saturdays, The Wanted, Jason Derulo. When I was like younger, that was my music, that was my jams. Like, I loved Jason Derulo. You could be my it girl. Baby, you're the loving you could be a crime. Facing crazy how we fit, girl. This is it, girl. Give me 25 to life. I'm gonna stop there before I like ruin my good streak of, yeah, Jason Derulo. I really want to do no, I can't do it. Like his little ad lib. Pitbull is the next person I wrote down. Mr. Worldwide, we love. He was just such an icon growing up. Cher Lloyd, because I grew up in the UK, so Cher Lloyd was on X Factor, and she was just iconic. I loved X Factor, and I loved watching her on there, so I loved her music. And Alexandra Burke, also, I think from X Factor, or they at least like use her songs quite a lot. I think she was on X Factor though. But the song Bad Boys, I think that's what it's called. Nicki Minaj was also a massive part of my childhood. Same with Ariana Grande, because I mean, who wasn't obsessed with like those two? And Ariana Grande was in Victorious, which I used to watch. So I loved her kind of ever since then. And Adele is another massive UK artist that I grew up listening to, because I was really like into my pop sing-songy kind of music. So yeah, that is the end of like everyone that I've written down on my list, and I'm sure there is so many more, because really into music as a kid, and I was really into the music channel, because like my aunties would have it on, and then when I got older I was like, oh, I want to like go on the music channel, watch all the music videos. But actually I think music was also like a big thing from me from watching like Hannah Montana, and yeah, I think that's where the love for music kind of started to form, because every girl wanted to be Hannah Montana, and that's obviously another nostalgic topic within itself. But onto TV shows. So I used to constantly be sat in front of the TV as a kid. I did go out and play quite a lot, but I did love watching TV like in the morning, or like when I got back home from school. But as a kid, I used to watch CBeebies, because that is like child's program channel here in the UK. And when I got a bit older, it was CBBC or CITV, and they are like the channels for the older kids. And I would get to watch things like Disney Channel if I went to somebody's house that had like a skybox. And on CBeebies, I remember watching, I've got a list in front of me. So, Thomas the Tank Engine, iconic. Fifi and the Flower Tots, iconic. In the Night Garden, obviously. Noddy. Noddy was one of my favourites. I've always loved Noddy. Well, not currently, but like as a kid, I always loved Noddy. The Tweenies, I also used to love the Tweenies. Flower Pot Ben and his best friend Corky, I think that was on CBeebies, because I think it was something I watched when I was like a lot younger. But the Numberjacks, also another iconic TV show from when I grew up. So 64 Zoo Lane as well, I could sing the theme tune from beginning to end. Can't really do that with any of the others, but yeah, we love. And then I'm not sure if this was on CBeebies as well, but when I was like this kind of age is kind of when I watched this. So Dora the Explorer, I loved Dora the Explorer. I wanted the little backpack with the map and Swiping, no swiping. We love. And on CBC or CITV, I would watch Alvin and the Chipmunks. I'd watch The Next Step, Tracy Beaker, which I was obsessed with Tracy Beaker, and The Dumping Ground, which was like the prequel. No, it's the one after Tracy Beaker, which was like when she grew up and became like an adult, and then was like someone managing all the kids rather than being one of the kids, which was quite cool. Danger Mouse, and I know that was like from before I was born, but I think they rebooted it like when I was younger, and I was obsessed with Danger Mouse and Art Ninja. So there was also So Awkward. There was Horrible Histories, which I was obsessed with. Horrible Histories. I loved it. It was so good. And Hank Zipser, which was on CBBC. And then I think it was on CITV, was Adventure Time. Looking back as like a teenager, I remember like going to put it on, and I was like, this is kind of dark. Like, why did I like watching this at like 10? But it explains a lot. And yeah, there are probably so many more things that I could mention from from those channels, but those are kind of the ones that like stood out to me the most. And on Disney Channel, I'd watch Jessie, which was my favourite, Ant Farm, which was my favourite, Girl Meets World, also another one of my favourites, which had Sabrina Carpenter in it. So I was an OG fan before a lot of you. No shade, joking. Don't want to get in trouble with the Carpenters. I don't know what they're called. Oh, Austin and Ally I used to love as well. Good Luck Charlie was also another top tier one. Shake It Up, which had Zendaya and Bella Thorne, which is crazy. I think that's right. If it's not right, then don't sue me. Fish Hooks, which was like an animated fish kind of like TV program. It's quite weird looking back, but I liked it. Liv and Maddie, which was Dove Cameron playing both twin sisters, which is kind of cool. Then Casey Undercover, that was Zendaya as well. Wizards of a Waverly Place was Selena Gomez, and I loved all of those. All of these shows definitely bring me like a lot of nostalgia, and they all reflect like different parts of my life and the different stages of growing up. And I went from watching In the Night Garden to The Next Step to, I don't know, Jessie. The next topic that I'm going to speak about is food. So I've always been quite a foodie, and I'm not necessarily like the most picky eater, but there's just like a handful of things that I really will not eat, like mushrooms and baked beans. They're a no for me. And I've always been a person that's kind of loved a sweet treat rather than like savoury, because like savoury is just not really like my thing. Like I do love like some crisps. But, you know, like I love like a nice dessert, or you know, something chocolatey, or just, I don't know, I always love like things that are sweet rather than savoury. And as a kid, I remember particularly loving chicken nuggets, chips and pizza, like every kid. And I remember liking like the alphabet shapes and spaghetti that was like shaped in different characters. So there'd be like Peppa Pig, or there would be like alphabets, or like, I don't know, Thomas the Tank Engine. And I also liked these little yogurts called Petit Falus, and they are little fruit flavoured yogurts. And I also love Froobs, but I think later on in life I found out that Petit Falus aren't actually yogurt. They're not considered a yogurt. I think it says something weird on it. I can't remember. I think that was what a revelation that I had was. But I love cheese strings as a kid as well. And when you went to like parties as a kid, there would be like little what's it called? Little things of like pineapple and cheese on sticks, like little, I don't know what the word is, little toothpicks, I don't know, something like that. But anyway, it had, yeah, pineapple and cheese on it. And my favourite ice lolly when I was a kid were like the push up ice creams. So like you could push like sweets through the middle, and the rocket lollies, and they will always be like one of my favourites. Ice cream wise, I was always a bubblegum girl until I got a bit older and I was a bit bored of that, so I've just loved honeycomb since. Food is something that I've loved ever since I was a little girl, and yeah, I always try and remind myself of the things that I loved to eat as a kid, because I always used to like have a dessert if we went out for dinner as a kid, because I would kick off if not, because I just loved the sweet treat rather than, you know, dinner itself. So yeah, I always try and like remind myself of all my favourite like desserts and stuff as a kid, or like get like nostalgic sweets as a treat sometimes. But yeah, it's weird how something that's obviously so important to you is such a big deal. I don't know. Like, I'm just such a foodie, I just love food. So, on to the next topic, which is films. So, when I was little, my favourite film was Finding Nemo. I would make my parents put it on over and over and over and over and over again. I would just sit there like all day as like a little kid and just be like, again. And I think my parents got really sick of watching the film. So I don't know if they've watched it since, but I still love it and I think I always will. But as a little girl, I always loved like all of the princess films. I wanted to be a princess, I wanted to be Belle, and I had like the little costumes and stuff, and I would obviously read like a lot of books as well about princesses and all of that jazz, and I would just like love it all. So I liked also a lot as a kid Toy Story, The Incredibles, 101 Dalmatians, because I've just always loved like little puppies, so cute. Bambi, The Fox and the Hound, which was a really sad film, but it was one of my favourites as a kid. Tangled, and like Wreck-It Ralph. The Hannah Montana film was also like a massive part of my childhood, because I would just watch the DVD from beginning to end and I just loved it. I just knew all the lyrics, like knew what was happening. I could like cite it from beginning to end at the time, and I just wanted to be like Miley. I wanted to be out in the country with Travis and all the horses and like the massive family, and we all sing together. Like that was my thing as a kid. I was obsessed. I wanted that to be me. And Hannah Montana definitely shaped me in a lot of ways, and I really did dream of being her, and I did wish that I could wake up in her life. And I think especially with like the anniversary special coming out and her finally getting a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and the fact she's the youngest on there, I think. it just really shows like how influential she was to so many young girls' lives, and I am very grateful that I was part of that. And I think definitely movies were a big escape for me, and I dreamt of being in their shoes and what I could bring to the movie, or I just like always pictured myself within the movie. And even when I got older, like I'm now thinking of it of Teen Beach Movie. It was a Disney Channel movie, and I was obsessed, and like I would just act it out by myself like a strange person. But I used to love acting, singing, dancing, all of that stuff. So yeah, I think it's very telling. So another, the next topic is being in nature. And this is a big part of like who I am now, and I think a lot of that was formed as a kid, and I've always loved being in nature. It just really grounds me, makes me a better person, and I love just everything about it. Just, well, not everything, but you know, I like looking at it and it makes me happy. And I think I've always imagined as a kid that, like, I always imagined as a kid that I was in some kind of like storybook adventure, and if we were going on a walk, like, I would make it, oh, like, this is where all the fairies live, and like, this is, you know, where the trolls are hiding underneath this bridge, or just like little things like that. And I think my grandma was a big influence, and like my family were a big influence of why I love nature and animals and just all things like that, was because I was really out in it as a kid. And yeah, I just fell in love with it, and it is my safe space. So I do tend to like still grounding myself by going out, and I like going to forests and walking through fields and looking at the butterflies and the birds. Like, I love looking at like the little robins, and they always fly so close to me, and I know that they're so like trusting of me. And sometimes when you're just sat there, you're like, I'm Snow White. I am. But no, I just, that was my dream as a kid, to be like one of the princesses, and Snow White was definitely one of them. So I wanted all of the animals around me, like that would be a dream of mine as a kid. So yeah, we love. Next topic that I'm gonna dive into is books, and I was book obsessed. I think I just loved anything that I could escape from my own reality as a kid, and books were such a big factor of like making me escape from what I was going through. And I'm not saying that like I necessarily was always going through like a really tough time as a kid, but in more of a sense of I didn't really have to be present. I could just use my imagination and like pretend like I was in this magical world, or you know, I was in this story that the author was telling me. And it definitely was like a big influence in my life, and I loved writing. And I also used to love like writing right before bed as a kid. Like, I would write my own little stories, and I have read back on them and they are awful. I hope they never see the day of light on the internet, because they are not, there's no, because I have found out, I've probably mentioned before, because it is my favourite thing to like just drop it in there sometimes, but I do love the fact that I am related to Shakespeare. I will provide evidence if you really, really, really want me to, but you know, I am related to him. And the fact that I wrote those horrible stories Just shows that maybe at that age I just didn't have the talent, and maybe I will. So stay tuned for the book coming in 2028. I would love to write a book, but I think it may take a little bit longer than that if I work full time. But hey ho. I read like a big majority of the kids' fairy books that were like massive in the UK, because they would bring like the book fair to primary school, and then you would like get to pick through like a whole new selection of books that you couldn't get from the library. And I was a massive library kid. I loved going to the library and just like getting a book. It was just so fun for me. And yeah, I would always pick out the fairy books from the book fair. And yeah, I just loved the fact like they all had like my friends' names, or like names that I really liked, or like my name. Like there was normally a book named after most like girls' names, and I think I like that aspect of it too. And when I got a bit older, I really fell in love with Jacqueline Wilson. So I would like get the magazines that she would like be in, and I really loved the fact that in the magazines when I was a kid, she talked about how she helped out, I think it was like Battersea animal shelters, and that is something that I've always been interested in like doing as well. And when I found out that she did that, I was like, oh my god, I love her even more. And she was definitely my favourite author. I would get her books for like my birthday, Christmas, whenever, and I would always try and beg my mum to buy me one. But yeah, I was just so obsessed with her, and I think her stories formed a lot of me as well. And yeah, I'm quite glad that I got to grow up reading her books, because she is or was quite a big inspiration in my life. I don't read her books anymore because they're not really my age demographic, but she definitely was a big influence in my life. So the last topic that I'm going to dive into is gaming and gaming consoles. So they were also a massive part of my childhood. Once again, a way that I could use my imagination or escape reality. And I had a white Nintendo DS when I was a kid. I was obsessed with my DS. I wanted to take it everywhere. Me and my sister would like send each other notes whilst we were in like bed. So like we would have bunk beds, and we would send each other messages from, I don't know, the top and bottom bunk, obviously. But yeah, that was like a very big core memory in my childhood. And I used to love playing Nintendogs, Super Mario Bros. Like I loved the mini games in the Super Mario Bros. The Sonic Olympic Games, I just loved that because I loved Sonic as a kid. Cooking Mama, oh my god. Like I do need to download the app, I think. So I'm pretty sure it's on the App Store now. But I loved Cooking Mama as a kid. And Brain Teasers, because I've always slightly been a bit of a nerd, and when I saw games like that, I was like, there's a bit of me. So I used to play the Wii quite a lot with my family, and we would like play like Wii Sports and stuff as well. But I remember playing Mario Kart and Wii Sports the most. Me and my dad used to play Lego Batman on his Xbox, and I was obsessed with doing that as well. And I am excited to play the new Lego Batman that has come out this year. I do not have a console to play it on, but I'm sure that I can convince my dad to play with me again, even though I probably still won't be much better than him, and he probably will still have to carry me the whole game, but it's fine. At least I will be slightly more competent this time. I mean, I was like, I don't know, under the age of 10 then, so I can't really hate on myself too much for that. But anyway, when I played games on the computer, which was another one of my favourite ways to play games, I used to play Bin Weevils and Moshi Monsters probably the most. Moshi Monsters, I had like the membership and I was really into Moshi Monsters, and I got things like the merch, the CD. I got my dad to get me the subscription and then I would like just be really obsessed with like drawing the characters and stuff. That I just loved it. And Bin Weevils was quite cool. Club Penguin was also a massive thing in my childhood. I loved the mini games and I would play it with like my aunties and like my friends and stuff. And what else is another game? There was another one, Movie Star Planet. I shouldn't have been on there because it was quite dangerous for young girls, because there were a lot of like weirdos trying to talk to young girls rather than like boys my age sort of thing. It was like quite creepy on Movie Star Planet. No, can't take it back now. But yeah, games were just another escape for my childhood, but they definitely did help bring me closer to people and closer to my family, and they gave me a lot of fond memories, and I had so much fun playing games and even like board games and stuff, which I think is definitely for another episode, because I could just go on all day if I could, and I can't because I do have work tomorrow, so definitely do need to stop talking at some point. But anyway, that is the end to today's podcast about nostalgia, and let me know in the comments if there is something that you want me to dive into more, or if there is something that I haven't covered and you want me to talk about. But if you enjoyed it, then make sure you give it a like, and you can also subscribe for more content just like this. And also let me know what you think of the new style of the podcast. Do you think it's cool? Do you like it? Let me know. Okay, well, thank you, and I will see you again for another episode. Stay delusional, embrace the chaos. Bye.